back at your Street Money radio show right here on Power 104.4 FM. Like I said, we got something different going on today. We got Mr. Tom Fyler. Tom Fyler. An avid Trump supporter. I'm sitting in here with him and I'm asking him questions. He's asking me questions. And I just want to go back to what we were just talking about behind while we were in the studio. Like the reasons why you support Donald Trump were totally different than what I expected you to say. And could you give the listeners a little bit of information like you just gave us?
Absolutely. First, it's great to be here today. I appreciate an opportunity to talk to you. I came on board with the Trump campaign very early on because I felt that he was the only person that could fight what I call the establishments. Mm-hmm. There's too many problems in America that just never get fixed. And it's because the establishment, they want it that way. The establishment gets along and they make money on the way the system is today.
Yeah.
And that's both, for example, down in Washington, that's both the Republican and the Democratic Party.
True.
They make money on the system as it is today, and so they don't want that system changed. One thing we're talking about, for example, one thing that never gets changed is the horrible care that our vets get from the VA system.
Yeah.
Right under the noses of all our politicians. About a year and a half ago, we found out that there's massive fraud at the VA. You know, they're cooking records, they're making things look like they're providing better services than they are. Yeah. And yet the GAO, the Government Accounting Office, who audits government agencies, reported that the waiting list was over like 300,000 vets were on the waiting list, and tens of thousands of them would even die before they even got into their appointment. Not necessarily because they didn't get their appointment, but because that their appointments were so far ahead and they couldn't get the services that a lot of them just passed away. And no doubt some of them died because they didn't get the services that they did, that they deserve. But the VA has about 3 or 4 establishments to it. And that's what keeps their system intact, and that's what keeps that system never getting fixed, because the establishment, Republican, the Democrat, the unions, the politicians, they make money off the VA, so they don't want institutions like that to be changed. And I felt that Donald Trump was the only person that could come in there and he could fight and battle the establishments to get some problems fixed.
Yeah, you're talking about fighting the different establishments. A lot of people don't understand the mechanics of the government. They just see like the Senate, they see they see the governors they vote for on TV, but they don't understand that, like you said, you're going to have to deal with this brand, you're going to have to deal with this faction, then you have to deal with this faction. And if all these people are trying to get at this one candidate and not really shooting towards the other one, it makes you sit back and think, well, hold up. The only candidates that the only branch of government that I see that's actually hitting Hillary Clinton is like the federal investigators. And I'm serious. Like everybody else is after Trump. Like he's bad for this, he's bad for that. He's bad against people with disabilities. He's bad against women. He's bad against minorities. He's bad. But only thing you're hearing about Hillary is like the feds want to talk to her. The feds are dropping something else talking about her. The feds this, the feds, and I kind of understand. I mean, if you've been in the establishment so long and society enabled you to be a certain way, then that's the way you grow up and that's the way you think, like that's how I'm supposed to be. So if you take somebody like Trump, who's an outsider, like you said, he got in the campaign, and to me, seriously, like him and Bernie Sanders, to me, if they would have went like Bernie went independent, but if Bernie would have had the backing that Trump had, or if they'd have got together, their ticket would have went all the way. Like for real, because they both had ideals that the average person, the average American is like, yeah, I want to deal with this. I want to talk to these people. I want to listen to what they have to say, because my partner said they got a voice too. And I'm sitting there like, yeah, because I thought of like some of the things he's saying, y'all, it makes a lot of sense. Because I mean, if you have all these people shooting at you and you stand against the wall, usually the average person just tuck and run. But that's not like the American way.
Yeah.
And if you bring that back, I mean, I don't want people that tell me one thing and smile, and then the next thing they say, my son, who's going into pre-college courses in 8th grade, is like a potential super predator. Like they don't understand. His mom has a college degree, his father has a college degree. They see me out in the street. We are the streets. We represent the street. We're street money. You know, like we were telling you about the definition of street. It's not as everybody say, oh, they're in the drugs, they're in the gangs, they're in this, that, or we might know somebody that did that once in their life. We might know these people, but like you said, everybody has their own dirt and their own situation they deal with, and you can't just broadcast one person's dirt and think it's not. I'm a Trump fan as far as him going against the media, because I said the same thing. If we take the media and pull the blanket out of some of these reporters, like just boom, what are you doing in the daylight? What do you do at night? But you know what it is? Street Money Radio Show right here on Power 104.4. Tom Fyler in the building. Yeah, man, we're doing it up, man. Big shout out to Mr. Holiday, man. He in there playing on his phone, man. CEO, head honcho in charge, Power 104.4 FM. Got his shoes off, kicked back. No, I'm just putting him in trouble, so. Yeah, big shout out to Lady Di. I know she's out there somewhere promoting that Street Money. Got the hot new magazine about to hit shelves. Y'all can actually get online, go to streetmoneymagazine.com, and the new magazine is up. It's been up for about a week. We just haven't been telling you. If you're not a real hardcore fan, you're not getting the text messages, you're not getting the emails. But just for everybody that's listening on Saturdays, let you know, man, it's online right now. What is it? $3. We went up $2.
Yeah, $2.
I'm about to say, yeah, we went up. Yo, that give me an extra $1. That's what I need. Another $1.50, yeah. Nah, but $2 online, man. You can download. Big shouts to Carolina Mafia. I know Daphne, she downloaded it. She told us about that, man. She's waiting on a print copy. Everybody out there, Halloween parties. Any Halloween parties? Who are you going to dress up as this year?
I haven't figured that out yet.
My wife just wants to put me in suits and stuff, and I don't want to go nowhere. So I'm like, no, I'm not the groom again.
Yeah.
No. But yeah, we're talking about a lot of different issues, and I just want to say one time, again, big shout out to everybody out there. College homecomings this weekend, and everybody go out there and vote, man, because you got to vote. If you got a right, use it, and that's a big thing. People don't use their right. How do you see this? Ask the average person, you gonna go vote? Well, I don't like who's up for this. I don't like. So I tell them this. I mean, if you don't vote for those people, you still can fill out the ballot for the other people in the lower positions, because the presidency dictates what's going on with national politics. You and me, every day, if we live in the same county, we have to dictate what's going on inside our counties. So how do you see that?
Yeah, DJ Strongboy, that's exactly right. Power comes from the bottom up,
Yeah.
not from the top down. So, if you want to get political power, you got to start out the grassroots, and you got to be electing those candidates, that are local.
Yeah.
Your local soil and water commissioner.
Yeah.
you want that person serving, your best interests and what you think
Yeah.
is best for the community, and then the state. Members of the House of Representatives, the state senators, your city or your town commissioners. That's where you want to start, because that's when where you can have the most influence.
Yeah.
And then as you work your way up in power, then you begin to elect the higher positions to have more input into who gets selected for your U.S. senators, your U.S. congressmen, eventually your president. So yeah, you want to start down in the grassroots.
Because see, a lot of people don't understand. I was trying to tell them, like, it's about delegates. So if the people in your state don't agree with what you agree with, and they vote for somebody else, or they give them the amount of delegates to be the candidate in the first place, then you never got your point across from the beginning, like you said, from the bottom up.
That's right.
And a lot of people don't like. Sean's always telling people how to do something as far as it comes to politics and voting and stuff. He's always on there like, hey, you fill out the ballot, make sure you do this and fill this out, because if you don't fill this out, it's not going to be valid. And the average person doesn't have that situation going on.
Yeah.
And you guys, you telling me about a multicultural group at Shaw University. Let you guys come down there and.
Yeah. There's an increasing number of African Americans and Hispanics part of the Republican Party. It's growing actually, quite fast. In my experience, from 2012 to today. The election 4 years later, there's so many more African Americans and Hispanics involved in the Republican Party. The Republican Party in North Carolina put together a North Carolina Diversity Coalition, and they had a meeting about a month and a half ago, which I was honored to attend, down at Shaw University. And it's not often, it's been not often that HBCUs or UCs are very amenable to Republicans.
Yeah.
And so it took courage from
That's a good
for the
word.
president.
Use that later. We're talking to my wife. Like, yeah, he's not amenable to me right there.
Yeah. But it took and quite frankly, a number of these members, Republican of the coalition, graduated from the historically black colleges, universities. So that was a great meeting, and it was something that the Republicans want to build on. But I wanted to, if I could, pick up on a number of things. In the last segment, you dropped 3 or 4 big things, and I want to try to piece a few together right here, and to kind of reinforce a few things you said. The first thing I want to say is, I think there is growing realization among various diverse communities that the Democratic establishment hasn't taken care of the needs that are in many communities. And these needs are, there's too many communities where the unemployment rate is too high, and it's been too high for too long. I'm talking about for decades, and that never gets fixed. The poverty levels are too high for too long. And thus you have a high crime rate. Then of course
education is low.
The education is low, and that feeds into the other things. If you've got a low educational base of the people of a community, then it's harder to create a good economy and have jobs and stuff. So all those are very important components. And I was really taken first aback by a statement that Alicia Garza made. And I haven't heard too many people talk about this. Of course, she's the co-founder of Black Lives Matter.
Yeah.
And she came out and she said about the Clintons, she said, they come around every election, into the African American and into the minority communities. They get their photo ops, right? They talk a lot about how they're going to do this and they're going to do that for their communities. But when the election is over, they're gone. And so all they've done is every 4 years come for photo ops because they never fix those problems. You mentioned super predator. Yeah. Well, back in 1996, it was the First Lady of the United States of America who stood up at Keene College in New Hampshire, and she called a whole part of America, a whole group of people in America super predators. And then she and her husband used the power of the police state to target them, and millions of them were then ended up in jail. And that robbed many communities of workers, of entrepreneurs. It robbed many communities of fathers for their children, of women with their men. Yeah. And we're still feeling the impact of that. But I want to get back to something that you said about Bernie Sanders.
Okay.
I got to tell you that a strange bedfellow is Donald Trump and Bernie Sanders on economic issues. And Bernie Sanders, which I totally agree with him on, is he sees the entire financial system and the monetary system of the United States of America stacked against the middle income and lower income people. Yeah. This is what Bernie Sanders did a fantastic job of pronouncing and explaining when he ran against Hillary Clinton. And Donald Trump feels the same way. So it's funny, in my life I usually find that if you've got two very diverse people that are kind of far apart in a spectrum, Bernie Sanders is very liberal, Donald Trump is I guess business and he's conservative. Yeah. But when two people like that agree on something, it's usually right. And I believe they're both right there. We have got to totally reform the financial and monetary system of America, which has Wall Street and large global banking institutions taking our money and funneling it up to them and away from, for example, the communities of America. Yeah. I understand when I was talking before the show here, you're working on a show called Street Money, and how that relates to entrepreneurs. And what entrepreneurs need and what any community economy needs is capital. It needs you need financing. And that's what the big Wall Street banks suck out of the small communities, and they take it up for themselves. Yeah. And I know I passed on an article to Sean about the government against black banks. Okay. Or African American local community banks in minority and African American in poor communities. Yeah. And I want to be clear about something. It's really a misnomer to say African American communities, because communities, even with the majority of African Americans, they've got Hispanics, they've got poor whites, So it's really,
Yeah.
people's communities,
Yeah.
that have this money taken.
I've tried to explain that to people, because I've actually seen communities where it's rich black people and the white people were poor. And they're
Amen.
like, no, you haven't. I'm like, yeah, I have.
Amen.
I've gone places where I've seen like a whole Asian community. Everybody has money. Then you go around the corner, there's a trailer park. And you're
Yeah.
like, I mean, like, so it's all, like I keep saying, it's the individual thing. Individually, collectively, we make a change.
Amen.
So,
See, the big Wall Street banks, I don't care who they take money from. It can be African Americans, blacks, poor whites. It can be Hispanics. They don't care. But what's happening is the big Wall Street who pays the politicians' campaign funds. And we're in an election cycle where right now is a time where we're learning about how much money,
yeah.
the wealthy, set in America, Wall Street and corporate, set, give to the politicians. And what they're basically doing is passing laws which make it very onerous for small and local community banks to stay in business. And so, for example, since 2001, over 54% of the local, African American community banks have gone out of business. 37% minority banks have gone out of business. So they're in the business of driving everybody, the smaller banks, out of business, and then they come in and they set up shop.
Yeah.
And what I mentioned in the article that I wrote is that what they're after is the $1.2 trillion buying power consumer market of the African American community. They want to push the black banks out, the African American banks out, and they then want to move in, and they then want to make the money off of the buying power of African Americans.
Okay, we're going to pay some bills. We'll come right back with Tom Fyler, you guys. Strong Boy right back at you with the Street Money Radio Show right here live on Power 104.4 FM. Every Saturday from 4 to 6 p.m. I'm about to hit the yard up. Big shouts to JCSU. I'm about to come down there and show my face for a little while, man. Big shouts to Made Fits, my man P.O., man, for putting out the shirts for him, man. The whole team, man. Everybody got going on working for him, man. They always putting out quality for us, man, over at Street Money. Be on the lookout for the new street design. You know what I'm saying? Established from birth. About to put that out there for the fall. Hoodies, long sleeve tees. It's coming, man. It's coming. But back to Mr. Tom Fyler. I mean, we've just been in here jumping back and forth with different topics and things, man. I brought up the Clintons and sending the jobs away. And people act like they forgot about that. I brought up the whole history that you know what I'm saying? I didn't bring that up, but it's just a history of their whole family doing things. Like you said, they come around every once in a while to get those photo ops. And there's a whole history of their family doing things that help their family when they're saying they're helping somebody else. And I don't agree. I'm gonna tell you, if I'm only helping me and mine, I'm helping the Sinclairs, I'm helping them. I'm not gonna be like, I'm gonna help you too, I'm gonna get you something, you go over there, you need something, you need some gum, you need some water. I can't spread myself out if that's what I'm doing. And the realism with Trump, I see that's why the supporters back him. Because he's telling you right there, yeah, I might have effed up. I might have did this wrong and that wrong. We guys get around guys and we say some nasty things. So, I mean, you recorded me saying something crazy. As long as my wife knows it's cool. My wife probably happy, like, yeah, all right. He said, yeah, I thought she was pretty too. Like, I'm glad he's not going in the other way. Like, I don't know, but I wanted to get to this. Yeah, I drop a lot of stuff. You talking about the reform, the monetary system. To me, when you're saying building it from the ground up, if your major focus isn't on education to change the mind frame of everybody, education doesn't even mean just having the kids being educated. I mean everybody. People have to have hunger for education and a hunger for knowledge again, because we're just getting complacent with our phones. Google, hey, what color is pink? Google, pink is red and white. You know what I'm saying? It's getting ridiculous. So people say I'm out of the norm sometimes because I get on everybody. If you're not doing something right now with yourself, I got 5, 6 jobs. I might not have Trump money right now, but I bet you I'll get it. And that's because of that ambition. And education, it plays a big role into that. Because if you have that knowledge, then you don't let people just come and pull the wool over your eyes. So if the system's going to change, where do we start at?
Well, I think you're right. We start in the community with education, you know, in communities. And there's too many communities where your educational opportunities are sparse. In other words, you've got strong unions, teachers' unions, who don't want to change the public educational system there.
Yeah.
Again, it's all about establishments maintaining their power. And so some of the alternatives, you know, don't get a fair shake in a lot of communities, you know, such as charter schools.
Yeah.
You know, charter schools can be a good addition to the public school system. And of course, charter schools are public
private
schools.
yeah.
Charter schools are public schools.
Yeah.
They're just organized and in a different manner.
Yeah.
But then you've also you know, got the trade schools. You know, this is one thing that Mr. Trump talks a lot about is, yeah, you know, going to a liberal arts college, or, you know, going to you know, a college where you go into law, or when you go into accounting or economics, you know, that's good stuff. But, you know, there's a lot of people who, you know, have different skills, you know, than that. And Donald Trump always talks about, you know, some people have an incredible skill to fix engines.
Yeah.
Or to build buildings, you know, and so that's one thing Mr. Trump talks about a lot. Just recently, a few days ago, he was down in Charlotte.
Yeah.
And he made a major policy speech talking about things like that. He also met with community business leaders from Charlotte in a private roundtable, you know, meeting where they talked about, you know, what can business do to support education in communities, because, you know, they're connected. You know, businesses, they need, you know, people to work with them.
Yeah.
Right?
The workforce. I mean, the workforce, the clientele. I mean, if you have a brand and people don't understand what your brand is about, they're not going to really look for it.
Yeah.
Like they said, people look for street money now because they know these guys aren't just about like they got the credibility with everybody, with corporate levels, the hood, the politicians, the whoever, because they keep the same. We don't put on a face or makeup to come to the table and sit down and talk to people. So I could have, I've had people around me that if they didn't see me in the same situation, they might start fighting, they might start shooting at each other. But they know at that present time they had to sit down and listen to what I had to say, because I'm not going to be there long.
Right.
And if you start doing that, I'm not even going to be around you. If you want my presence, you want the information I'm trying to give you, then you need to sit back and understand. And that goes back to education. I learned something new. They teach the kids a different math now.
Yeah. I
I always thought 1 + 1 was 2, and then my son came home and started showing me graphs and boxes, and I'm like, yo, 1 and 1 is 2. It's been that way since forever. He's like, no, but you got to do this. I was like, no, look. But it's education, because if you're not educated, you're not going to care about what's going on in your system.
Amen.
You know, and that's big to me. The photo op thing got me. That was funny though, because I seen that too. Like I said, I said this behind the closed doors. Like when you guys aren't on air, you don't hear it. I said like the most powerful black woman in the world sat back and waited for the second most powerful black woman in the world to back Hillary Clinton. And then this week, Michelle comes out and is on stage with her. Were they down here? They were.
I think they were
down here.
They were in Charlotte.
Yeah, they were in Charlotte. And I'm like, yo, you wait till like 2 weeks before the whole thing to be like, all right, we behind it. I heard your speech at her inauguration. Okay, because your husband's the head Democrat right now. So certain things you got to do. But if they were politically correct, I don't think they would have been on stage with them. Yeah. All the nasty stuff they said about him 4 years ago, 8 years ago, I don't think they would have. I think those smiles and hugs are fake. You can see even when she comes off the stage, she just looks fake to me, man. I don't really trust Trump because I see an ulterior agenda. You know? Because to me, he should have, maybe if he ran this time and doesn't win and it runs again, he has that experience. See, the lack of experience as a businessman, he knows. He's not going to hire me if I don't know statistics and he wants me in his accounting department. You know, but if you politically, you might need that change. Every once in a while, you need somebody that really doesn't know so they learn along the way. So, I can't say. I mean, I don't know. I don't know who I'm voting for, man. Somebody call me and tell me who they vote for, because I really don't know.
Yeah.
And I usually have my mind made up by now. I know I'm voting for Sean Eccles in Iredell County, though.
Amen.
Yeah. I'm voting for Sean Eccles in Iredell County. That's where we at. Big shouts to Statesville, Mooresville, Harmony, Troutman. You know, like, there's a couple Halloween parties going on up there. I don't know what to do today, man. I've had a long week.
Amen. Well, you know, last week, had I known you, I would have invited you to a meeting, Eric Trump, Mr. Trump's, one of his sons, and then
It was
Eric's
in
wife, Laura.
Salisbury.
Well, they're in South, but they're also in Statesville.
Oh, they were.
Yeah, had I known you, you would have been in that meeting if you could have made it. But what we did was, we put together, again, a group of business people.
Yeah.
Mr. Trump, there's always the expectation to visit churches, for candidates to visit churches, and that's good. That's good. But, where things also get done, maybe even more so than anywhere else, is in the business community.
Yeah.
A community is only as strong as the business people in the community, and that community, those business people, are only as strong as the capital that's available to them. But we had a meeting of diverse business people, and these were African Americans, these were Hispanics, these were whites. They were from all parts of the business community. And Eric, asked them questions and asked them about, what needs to be done, what type of, things can a candidate and then of course a president or the political system do to either help them be more successful in their community or to take shackles off of them.
But see, the reason why, like when you come to minority communities, the reason why you approach the churches because minority communities are so, well, I won't even say minority communities, because Spanish community, a lot of them do a lot of their worship amongst family on a daily basis. When you come to the African American community or the black community or whatever you want to call it, a lot of our inner sanction is based into the church.
Yeah.
So a lot of people, there's hypocritical people with the church. Like the whole system is messed up because you have people that sit on one side and they say they believe this and they do this, but then in their lifestyle they're totally different. To me, the question has to be raised in my own community of African American or black people or people of color, that why is it that when politicians come through and they feel like they have to talk to somebody that's leading the community, they have to go to the church? And you said that had to deal with capital, because we're all paying our tithes to the church. So everybody in the community is paying money to these 16 churches that are in our little 4-block community. So they all those people have the money and all have the power, but we'll come back to that because I got to pay some bills. Commercial time. S. Dot. Super producer S. Dot. He does a lot. That's the slogan right there. Oh, he done made it up. That was my co-host for the day, man. Mr. Tom Fyler. You know what I'm saying? He's out here with us. He's like, yeah, I'm not the co-host, man. I was just trying. He got the legal pad. He's been writing down all these notes. Like, yeah, I might have something coming from me in the mail. Like, yeah, man, I'm gonna take this. I'm gonna send this to Trump. I'm like, yeah, I like that idea.
Well, I got to keep these notes because you're just laying out ideas and you're just laying out things, and I want to get to a couple of them because they don't maybe seem to connect, but you've connected the dots. But go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, well, of course, DJ, we're talking before the show. He tells me he's from the Bronx.
Yeah.
And so I've worked in Manhattan for over 20 years. So, DJ's talking about the old days, Ed Koch. He's throwing out Maury Povich. He didn't seem old enough to be throwing around that stuff, but I guess he's been around. But we were just talking off segment about being selfish about America. You said that maybe Donald Trump needs to go out and say we need to be selfish about America. And in a sense, he's saying that. He's talked about putting Americans first. And now you had mentioned NAFTA and CAFTA. Okay, just talk a little bit about how is that putting America first? These trade deals.
See, if you give away your top commodities to somebody else, they're gonna have the power. So, like, perfect example, Africa got robbed for all its diamonds. Gaddafi tried to make an African bank, but with all the unrest, nobody could trust anybody. It's a shame of what happened to him, but his ideal was like, all right, if we got the richest natural resource continent and we make our own bank, then everybody else can borrow money from us.
Yeah.
So if we have all the resources and all the technology and the best military stuff, and we're sending all these jobs and everything across seas, then those countries, I hate to say it, look at the Middle East. CIA went in, they helped out this group to get out this group, but by teaching this group your tactics. That's like sending Bill Belichick to go to the Jets and help them with their offensive line. Next thing you know, they got 10 championships. Like, oh, the Jets, So it's people that don't know what we're talking about. It's the North American Free Trade Agreement and the Central American Free Trade Agreement. Both were signed like somewhere in and during the Clinton era, like right at the beginning and like in the era. So it wasn't like,
right.
See, when the president, like people keep saying this, they call it Obama phones, they call it Obamacare, they call it like all this stuff got Obama name on it. But if you don't have health insurance, you had it for these last 4 years, the last 3 years or whatever. If you didn't have a phone and you were in a poor community, you couldn't call your grandparents or your grandkids or tell somebody you needed help. He gave you a free phone. You know, people take the free stuff and be like, oh, it's so bad. All right, well, you didn't take welfare and say, oh, that's so bad. But then you talk to people that's from those eras and they be like, yeah, when he introduced welfare, they were like, no, no, no. But then so many people like that are working hard. You might get sick. You might have been paying all your tax, paying everything on time, and a perfect citizen, don't have any driving tickets, don't have any any kind of altercation with any kind of law enforcement agencies. Your name don't pop up on any list. But boom, you got sick, you fell off a building at work or something, you broke your hip, you don't have a job, you can't pay for this, you can't pay for that, then you need some kind of help.
Amen.
I don't agree with people that's out here that get these checks and get all the support from the government, and then, they're out here and they're cooking crab legs and shrimp and all that. I mean, I eat crab legs and shrimp. I'm from the ocean, so I eat all that. My diet is different, but I pay for mine. I don't wait till the date rolls around like, oh, we're gonna have a cookout, or we're gonna have this, we're gonna have that. And I've seen that across the board from not just black people, not just white people, but I've seen people coming from, like you said, I got people from Cali, and the gang violence over there, and the trafficking, not just drugs, the human trafficking, the organ trafficking. Like, if you're sitting around here in North Carolina, you don't know about what's going on in different places in the country, then you probably can't have a real civilized conversation with somebody.
Yeah.
Because they don't understand it. So if you go over there, you say, all right, well, what does he mean? He wants to build a wall. Well, the Mexican people want to have a way to keep all the stuff out of here too. So if their government is agreeing to certain stuff, and it's not the people that's agreeing to it, the government is agreeing to it. And like we said, if you voted for those officials, or if they're in power and you allow them to be in power and to maintain their power, then you have no voice. Your voice is their voice. Well, their voice is your voice.
Yeah.
And back, so it's kind of hard. If you don't know really, we're talking about the trade agreements. That's what allowed everything to say made in Mexico now, and South America and everything. The Central American Free Trade Agreement. Then the North American Free Trade Agreement. I don't know how. I mean, Bush jacked that up by adding China to it. So I mean,
well, what Bill Clinton figured out was, he was a guy from Arkansas, right? And nice little state. But when he became president, he saw that there were large corporations, that they had interests in foreign countries, and one of those interests was cheap workers.
Yeah.
Cheap workers.
Cheap labor.
Cheap labor, So Bill Clinton, he realized that. He also realized that they give a lot of money, campaign donations.
Yeah.
And so he figured out that if he can help them, they're going to help him. And that's part of what NAFTA was. It was enabling large corporations to be able to legally go overseas and get their goods, instead of being made in Charlotte, or instead of being made in Lenoir-Rhyne, or instead of being made in North Carolina. These corporations can make a lot more money, through the free trade agreement, making things in foreign countries.
Yeah, I mean, I talk about this all the time, like with the Jordan sneaker brand. I mean, Jordan's coming out now talking about this and that, and I don't really care about it. I mean, I understand he went to a situation, like a certain class of people, because he felt he was better than that, because what he struggled through to get through, and have what happened to his father happen that way. I feel certain circumstances make you a certain kind of person. But if